A good evening, a good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports. We are in the studio today with none other than the professor and the stogie himself. He is back from vacation. He's back home in the natural studio. Professor, how we doing, big guy? Good to see you.
Man, we're doing great. You know, it's one of those things, you come back from vacation, you don't want to leave, but back to the grind. I'm back into my cave and, just grinding away. I think I emailed you on like Tuesday, had half the show ready.
Yeah, you were good to go. Bring your mic in a little bit closer. But yeah, you were humming and ready to rock and roll. We're happy to have you back into your natural habitat away from the birds. That's always a pleasure. And you guys are all here already hanging out with us. Good to see. Some of you guys are asking about this recruiting weekend from the Florida Gators. It's one of the things, bro. One of those things. I don't know, boys. I got nothing to say. We got to save it for Wednesday. If nothing happens, I got to process it. But Gators baseball, I see they just fired up for their second game of the day. Hopefully they can pull that off and then roll into Monday. But we got a jam-packed show. Going to go over some Jaguars OTA talk. Anthony Richardson, a little bit of what's the noise that we're hearing at a Jaguars camp. Jimmy G, the turf debate. We'll get into that and then probably wrap it up from there. But we've got, obviously, Miami Heat at 8:35. So we're rocking. And Muddy says, I see the peach fuzz, boys. Cody's been working, boys. He's going to get that beard. It's going to come one way or another. He's going to grind it out. But good to see all of you guys. And let's have a good show. First order of business, Jaguars OTA news. Obviously, it's all we've got right now. We're trying to, pull and pry everything we can get out of this these early times in Jaguars. But Coates, how we looking, big guy?
Yeah, looking pretty good. So this week is the first week of 11-on-11, non-padded. But it's nice because you're actually getting a little bit of pressure from the defense, simulated pressure. And we know Trevor Lawrence need to work on that muddy pocket. They're simulating a lot of that stuff too. So it's pretty good. Couple one of the outstanding guys. I got this from John Oshwer from He's a Jags writer, kind of a beat writer. Wide receiver Jamal Agnew seems to be increasing with the game-changing speed he has. He's had two really big plays on Tuesday, and he seems to be a key situational guy, but a key role is being carved out for him.
Good to hear that. And I think we were talking precast a little bit for Trevor. I think we don't forget, but obviously, Trevor, in the anticipation of him coming out of Clemson, was big. First year being under Urban Meyer, that had its ups and downs and all types of animals. And obviously, his second year, again, another new head coach. So back to his first two seasons with two new head coaches, and to have the success they did, I think we kind of forget about it because the season sometimes it can go a little bit long. And so now we're headed into a third season, and it feels like a Trevor or a killer mentality is starting to flip for Trevor, right? When he came out of the draft, we talked about this a little bit last week. He was a little, kind of like, hey, I just like that fun, no big deal. But I think he got a taste of what could be last year. I think where the team is headed is just on absolute piss missile. But yeah, I think we're hearing it out of the camp. We're seeing just kind of the video. Just his eyes look a little bit different, right? Looks like he's hungry and ready to rock and roll. And Jamal Agnew is a big component that had a lot of success towards the end of the year. Really kind of started to shine at the end. So excited to hear that he's starting to find more of a role as well too.
Yeah. So this is kind of going to be this week. It seems like they're trying to really figure out what they have in the wide receiver room. They kind of shook that room up a couple of years ago or last year, and so it's one of those things. John also spoke with the Jags writer. Spoke of a big play by Kendrick Pryor on a deep, beautiful ball down the left sideline. It didn't say which quarterback threw it, but also wide receiver Kevin Austin. He is starting to find a little niche for himself, and he stands out. He's kind of a big frame guy. He's got the size, he's got the length, and they're really working him into the system. And it's going to be one of those things where he is starting to get a lot of the deep drag routes and stuff like that down the field. So of year two under Dougie P, right? And it seems to be attack, attack, attack down the field, which is sometimes one of those things where that happens in year two because the wide receivers are getting comfortable. Also, Zay Flowers had a beautiful. No, Zay Jones had a beautiful.
I was like, what?
Catch. No, Zay Jones had a beautiful catch down the sideline also. So kind of the same deal where they're really looking to see which wide receivers are going to hack it and which aren't, and who are dependable. And that throw was by T-Law.
Yeah, look, year two with Zay, year two with Kirk, right? Things are starting to really sync up. I think obviously it's Ridley's first year, but Ridley's a professional. I think he's going to fit right in. There was an interview he was kind of talking about a little bit. They asked him, hey, like, what are your thoughts on how are you and Christian? How's you and Kirk's relationship? Obviously, he is the number one guy, or was. How is Kirk taking that? How are you handling that? It was kind of a ballsy question to ask, but he answered it properly. Look, this is Kirk. You know, I'm coming in from the outside, but definitely I think an opportunity for Calvin to take over if possible.
Yeah, most definitely. And then also another guy that made it back was Cam Robinson. He was practicing. He also, obviously, with the suspension looming, they're going to let him practice, keep in football shape. But he had the rookie offensive tackle, Antoine Harris, right under his wing. They're lockered next to each other. So it's one of those things where, you know, it's kind of going to be like, look, you're going to have to learn fast.
Step up, yeah.
You know, step up until I can come back, and then
the suspension hasn't been given out yet for Cam Robinson, so we're not quite sure how long he's going to be out just yet.
It has not, and there's also a appeal process too, so we can't forget about that. So Cam Robinson may not miss any games this year. It might be a next year deal with the appeal process. We don't know. It's also his first time being suspended, I believe, for the performance-enhancing drugs, allegedly, and so usually those come with a 4 to 6 game in the past with first time people
abusers. Okay,
abusers,
think they could maybe
it's usually
throw him a bone and maybe give him only 4 games versus the 6, with it being a first time offense. Good thing he didn't game any football games. That could have been pretty bad.
Yeah, and he's going to lose some money out of it because those suspended games are without pay, and that's how they make their money. If people don't know, it's called a game check, and they make most of their money off the game check. So it makes sense why he's in. At least he's there. You know, these are not mandatory at the time, so he's there. He's helping out the team. I see a really big flip of the switch in the Jaguars organization where it seems like this team is more of a team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, something as for following the Jags and always kind of just watching from the outside, it always felt that there was a culture issue. It's been like that for a while. When Moreau was there, they brought Tom Coughlin in to try to bring back a little bit of, stiffness to kind of bring back. I mean, Tom Coughlin's biggest thing is if you're on time, you're late. And so I remember videos coming out just a couple. I mean, it's been a while now. We're far away from that, but there's always been a culture issue in Jacksonville. Jalen Ramsey, I think he was kind of there at the end of it, and then left when it started kind of stirring back up again. They had a kind of a little bit of obviously that they shined and did well with it, but yeah, it feels like it in a weird way. Jacksonville Jaguars football feels like a professional organization. And if you're a Jags fan, you know what I'm saying, right? Where it feels like we've been playing behind the 8 ball, and we've kind of been the laughing stock, and it's like, no, they're the real deal. Vegas is all in on them. Obviously, we're excited to see what they're going to do. But with Trevor Lawrence, Dougie P at the helm, the draft picks, I mean, they were healthy, they were good. They're moving in the right direction. You've had back-to-back draft picks 2 years prior to that, so things are moving in the right direction and exciting to see. And I think that's why there's all this noise and just the following, even so with the we talked about with the marketing team with the Colts compared to the Jaguars. The Jaguars are doing a phenomenal job just with interviewing players. They've got their series where they have the hunt. Look, you don't do those things if there isn't energy behind your organization, right? Because that's getting return on them. The Colts don't have anything, and it could be due to the fact of it just being kind of a lackluster organization over the last few years. So it's good to see where
Yeah.
everything's are headed.
Yeah, if anybody is sitting in the Colts compound, listen to this. Listen, if you need somebody to come run your media team, I'm available.
It's Stokes and all, boys. Stokes and alls.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff, man. Anything else?
Just the last. That was the last little bit. Cam Robinson and Antoine Harris is really just
Cool.
man. He seems to be a guy. Good footwork and just doesn't seem that he's getting overpowered yet. Now we don't have pads on, so that's gonna be later down the line if we see him getting pushed back a bunch. But it looks like all things are going up, and yet another week without any big injuries. So I think that's a win in OTAs.
Love it. Good stuff. Speaking of Indy, obviously AR is always going to be a point of emphasis on here. One, with us being Gator fans, is excited to see what he's doing out there in Indy, but then also too, your direct competition this year. We also got to think about C.J. Stroud and Houston. We probably should check into him. I saw Bryce Young slinging the ball a little bit. He's getting some praise, but these guys were expected, right? Anthony was more of that extreme possibility, high value pick, right? Like what could be. So the noise is definitely a more uptick on AR than those other two guys because the expectation for those guys is higher. For AR, it's higher, but not as soon. So for the fact that things are kind of looking like it's on a pretty excessive progress to go forward, it's fun to watch. Go ahead.
Yeah, most definitely. And here's the thing. AR, the Colts media team is just plumb terrible. I mean, we were looking back, and you can barely find any videos. And the videos you find, you never see them really throwing to receivers. So it's kind of frustrating at times. But so this is straight from the AR camp. This is from a local Colts beat writer that I follow and trust his guidance. He's been with the Colts for about 15, 20 years. So, he's not all sunshine pumping. So if there's something wrong, he'll definitely put it out. But, AR in typical fashion, he's dazzling the Colts front office. Head coach Shane Stetson said to the media that the rookie quarterback has been making some big plays. Some stuff is definitely next level and some just absolute wow moments, which we all knew that was going to happen, right? But AR still has a lot of work to do to get him exactly where we want him to be. Wide receiver Isaiah McKenzie, and I pronounced that right because last week I got totally obliterated about a tight end that is a kind of a nobody, and so I went ahead and wrote down the wide receiver's name this time. He talks about how accurate he is. He says, man, you flip around and that ball is humming and it is right on the numbers, right where you want it. Good catchable ball. He has seemed to take some mustard off of it, which I think obviously was an issue at Florida. He only had the one ball and it was 1,000-mile-an-hour laser beam. But he said, yeah, I caught a 40-yard bomb from him last week and it was on a rope and it was a thing of beauty. So, AR is just doing AR things, and we all knew it was going to happen. Now, I'm really surprised about how much they're gloating about his throwing capability, because I thought it would be a little bit more about his athleticism, and we haven't heard a single thing about that.
It's a good point. And I think something, too, we saw it last year a lot. Before the game, just his personality, super calm, cool, collected guy. Always just having a good time on the football field. Could always fling it 1,000 miles down the football field. Never had an issue doing that. It was always the touch, like you said. But I think his season in Gainesville, at Gainesville, and this is something that I prefaced time and time again when I said he was going to go to the NFL draft. It was such a vacuum that season. And to play in the swamp, to play in front of Gainesville, to play for Gainesville, to play for Florida, it's brutal. Coaching there is brutal. Yeah. The fans, we are insane. So when you're in this scenario with Coach Billy coming in, all the lights are on him, there's a ton of pressure there to do well. Then the injury to Jack Miller, I'm sure that played a factor into his ability to be himself. There's a lot behind the scenes that we're not going to know. We may never know. And now he's in a place where all that goes away. there is zero pressure for him to be successful in year one. Zero. There's expectations for him to have progress, but which would be considered success. But what I mean by success is having a winning football team, right? So I expect to see a lot of good things out of AR. What's going to be, interesting to see is once that ball gets rolling, because again, we saw him. I mean, he clutched up at the Utah game. I felt like that was a pretty big time game. It was once he kind of, settled down, I don't know if he heard the noise or whatever happened. That's when things started to kind of eat away at him, right? I'm assuming. I'm trying to piece together stuff here, but it's going to be interesting to see with all that away, are we really going to see the version that we talk about week in and week out, and the version that the NFL scouts saw at the combine? What you say?
Yeah. So, and I will say this: the last little tidbit I had here, and I wanted to give you your chance to talk, but it seems to me that most Colts media members and a lot of the front office think that he will be the day one starter for week one, and that it is his job to lose.
Really? So you were going to say that because that's going to kind of counter what I'm saying, that there is pressure for him to be successful. So look, even with him being the week one starter, and with them saying that already, I still think that they know of like, hey, like there's no, the upgrade from AR to Minshew doesn't really give us that much more of a chance to win. So we're still not expected to go out there and win 8, 9, 10 plus games. There's no point in that. We're giving you the reins now because we know that Gardner may win us 2 more games than you will, but that doesn't do us anything for the following year. So honestly, if you see this draft coming up, it's like, hey, don't worry about winning all these damn games because the draft looks absolutely stacked. So if you get a hell of a ton of playing time and we get a top 5 round draft pick again, nobody's going to be upset with you. Think about Trevor Lawrence's first year. Think about Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was a first round, number 1 overall draft pick. Atrocious first season. They get to go back the next year and get another first round draft pick, which you could argue we may have dropped the ball a little bit, but we got another season coming up, so we'll see how he does. And then look what happened, right? Look what the following season they were able to do, right? Trevor got to play. They went all in because there was a lot of talk. Is Trevor going to be the guy? So forth. I want to say Minshew was still there at that time, right? Same kind of scenario, same exact scenario. And it was like, what's the point of wasting this on Minshew? We can just go ahead and give it to him now and let it rock and roll. Who cares what happens year one? Nobody's going to care. Now, you're losing life in Jonathan Taylor, things like that, because running back's life, is short. So there is obviously some downplay to it, but the Colts can't go into the season thinking, hey, we're going to be a playoff team. No, not at all. So I stand by what I said. The pressure, I don't think, is going to be the same because you can't have one of those seasons in Gainesville. There isn't a down year. I mean, even though we had a down year, you can't go into that year like, hey, this is just like kind of like a progress year. Those don't exist.
Yeah, and I think he learned a lot from that. And I think that he learned essentially like, I just got to be Ant. I have to be me. I can't let the outside noise of Florida affect me. And it did at times. I'm going to keep saying it. The Kentucky game, he was rattled. I saw it in person. I saw the body language. His head was down. It wasn't him. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't laughing. He just had his head down and kept saying, I got you guys. I got you guys. I'm going to try to make it work. And I think there's a lot of maturing that happened over this past year at Gainesville. Guys, a couple years ago, Felipe Franks goes viral after shushing the crowd. That's how much heat is on at Gainesville. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, look, and something to say, I was going to kind of go into that as well, is with Anthony playing from Gainesville, playing in the Swamp, playing in the SEC stadiums, playing in NFL stadiums are not nearly as insane. So it's crazy to say that. It's not crazy to say that. It's fact because it's not as intense. The pressure is not there. There's NFL fans, they're crazy, they're wild. It's not nearly the same. We even had Townsend on from the Kansas City Chiefs, and I asked him like, what's it like punting in a professional stadium versus a college stadium? He's like, Arrowhead is probably the closest thing to an SEC stadium. Arrowhead. So closest
stadium,
thing too. He put SEC at the top level. When we know college football is absolutely insane. So in a way, I mean, he's not obviously downgrading, but he's taking a step back out of the mayhem that was probably causing a lot of his downfalls in that first real season of his. So we'll see.
Yeah, yep. That's all I got on AR and company. I hope
we got 4 months
media
celebration from West Day. He says mentally he throws, I can't read that. Can't turn the page. I don't know what you're saying there, Wes. But yeah, good stuff there. Good update on AR. Obviously, it's going to be something we keep track on throughout the year. Even with being a Colt, it's still fun to watch. So next order of business, Jimmy G. Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm a big fan of Jimmy G. I have always thrown a lot of praise, a lot of love to Jimmy G. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. Being behind Tom Brady, I've always felt that Jimmy G gives you the best opportunity to win. When he was with the Niners last year, they gave the ball to Trey Lance. Nothing against Trey Lance, but I felt Jimmy G was still your best option. Jimmy G comes in and goes, Niners are going to be good. Niners, and they were good with Brock Purdy. Then Jimmy G obviously got hurt and was out for the year. But the update is that his injury is still a little bit lingering. Is that right, Cody?
Yeah, so Jimmy G is a guy, I think a lot of people like him because as people say, women want to be with him and men want to be him. He's just am I wrong?
Yeah, he's a good-looking dude. He got the swagger.
He got the swagger, okay?
Yeah.
So, Jimmy G, after signing with the Raiders this offseason, obviously, and it seems that now the Raiders have clapped it up to them. They have made their first contract that wasn't a dumpster fire when it comes to quarterbacks. Right? So, essentially, Jimmy goes in. He fails the physical for a fractured foot that was not healed properly, and he ended up having to get surgery on it. Now, with him failing that physical, he lost $6.5 million in a signing bonus. He does not get that signing bonus. And
Huge.
if the fracture doesn't heal, they have a voidable clause that they will void his entire contract. He will become a free agent. They're hoping that. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, so they're hoping all things are good, but they do have the voidable clause. Now, this is what I ask you: is this what Davante Adams was so upset about?
Do you think he already knew before it came out?
Yeah, for sure.
No, we talked about this last week, and I was going to preface that because we talked about the offensive.
Well, and they got nobody behind Jimmy G.
The offensive scheme doesn't fit Davante Adams' style, right? Like we talked about, Jimmy G's probably going to come in because they've got Josh from the Patriots there. That offense that's going to be calling is typically or kind of like what we saw back in the day with Tom. Quick dump outs, probably have a pretty heavy running game, right? And Jimmy G coming to manage the game more. I still think that was the reason for him being upset, but the Raiders don't want this to happen at all. They're happy because they're saving some money. But they don't want to void this contract because you dip out, you send off Derek Carr, and you put all your eggs in this basket right here. He's supposed to be your guy. This is huge. This isn't anything they want to do. So, and look, the Raiders, they're kind of in a weird place. I feel like with Carr gone, that relationship kind of ended poorly. They manage every relationship poorly. It feels like they can't get anything right, and so it feels like it's happening again. I feel like they're cursed. This is what it feels like again. Same thing. Antonio Brown, Davante Adams. Who you get Davante Adams, and now he wants out. Like they can't get it right.
Well, yeah, especially if his quarterback in Jimmy G, that was the only possibility of him actually having a good season, isn't possibly even going to be on the team. Now there is one more guy that's kind of sitting back. You want to know who it is? Tom Brady is part owners of the Raiders and the A's.
Oh no, you're doing this. Oh no. Could you imagine?
I mean,
look, if there's a place that he comes back, I always felt the 49ers were one. But you've got Josh there. You play with him for how many years?
He's part owner.
That defense is good. That defense is really good. I don't know.
Is that a possibility?
I don't know,
man.
Is that
their backup plan?
Could they talk him off the ledge?
Yeah, he's single. He don't give a shit right now. He's part owners. He's already in money cahoots with what's his name, the owner of Davis, the owner, because he owns partial of the Raiders and the A's, and the A's is owned by Davis too. You don't think Davis is, Bubby?
We need you.
Jimmy G's down.
I need a
we
year.
Need you to strap it up.
I need you to merge it for me. You need you to give me a connecting year here, so like you go back.
Yeah, and then
we'll figure it out. But give me the year. Give me a competitive year. I don't think so.
Possible.
I don't think so. I would love it though. I would love this for Tom to get another year under his belt. Bro, imagine Brady in Vegas, son. Son, what a time to be alive.
He knows the offense.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's not as hard as a fit as you think. He says Wes says you can't play for a team you have part ownership in, so that might just shut down our dream right there. Super chat from Super West Day. Made it just shut down our entire.
Thanks, Wes.
Yeah, just.
I want him to go full Jackie Moon.
He could sell his team. He could sell part of it, maybe.
Yeah, he could probably sell out of it. I want him to go full Jackie Moon, be the owner and the superstar.
I would love
in
it.
The movie.
That'd be a good time. All right, next order of business. Harrison says, "Show and watch the Rays beat the Diamondbacks," and then immediately hopped on the stream. Literally, I was when I took off out of the room, it was because I hit a grand slam. Like no joke, Harrison. Turf versus grass. Talk to us, Cody. What's going on? What's the argument going on?
Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. So essentially, we've seen a lot of injuries to knees on the turf fields. Now, this year was kind of a odd year where it broke even, and that's really what the owners are holding their flag on their hill, is that the turf does not cause more injuries than the grass, but it definitely does. The players hate playing on turf.
Pretty loud consensus on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad for the joints. It's bad on their back. They cramp up. And we've seen it over and over again where a guy gets tied up in the turf. And when that happens, something's got to go. And it's always an ACL. We saw it with the wide receiver for the Rams, Odell Beckham Jr. Just a routine play, didn't even try to really make a cut, and he got caught up. And they call it the fencing position where essentially you have all your force on that knee and it just pops. So couple things that I looked into. 16 teams have turf right now, and 16 teams have grass. So it's split even.
Wow, that's huge.
And I there is no reason why you can't do it, because if you can have grass at Green Bay, and they have a special grass called Denso Grassmaster, and it was developed for the soccer fields, and it has essentially a synthetic fiber woven into the grass to keep it basically erect and not all beaten up after the play. So
Chicago's a real field too. In Chicago, I mean, you can make the same argument there. Continue. Sorry.
Anyway, so we have all these grasses that they can use, but it seems like, people like Jerry Jones just don't want to do it, and it's head scratching. I know it costs a lot more to run grass, but you have millions and millions of dollars in investments, and what is it going to take for one of these guys to blow out a knee? And what's going to be the tipping point? There's always a tipping point where they all go to grass. Now, there has been a turf field that was already taken out. It was outlawed by the NFL and the PA Players Union, and that was the split turf grass. And that had a extreme high probability of the cleats getting tangled, them getting in that fencing position, and it blowing their knee out. But it seems like they should just go with this Denso Grassmaster. It can be used everywhere, from all the way from Arizona to Green Bay, and that's what the soccer teams are using. And here's the kick to the butt, is that there's a couple stadiums that are going to put grass in for the World Cup, for the soccer playoffs, because the soccer teams refuse to play on turf. They won't do it. Sure. So they're already doing it. Turf stadiums are already doing it for that event, but they won't do it for the NFL.
I'm trying to. I mean, outside of the maintenance for the owners, because that's probably a pretty penny. I mean, I take care of my grass.
Yeah, you got to have a full lawn crew.
I wouldn't mind turf in my lawn, just because the maintenance would be pretty easy, and you could get a little chipper and a little putting green on here. But it's a lot of work. It does take a lot of work and time. But like you said, if you're Jerry Jones, it's a big investment, but you have $1 million investments running around on that field on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing: is they practice on grass. They're already paying for grass fields because all the teams have grass practice fields. So it doesn't make sense. It's an odd deal, and it seems like
hopefully something get passed. Yeah.
Well, it's going to have to be through the players' union, and the players' union is pretty weak. I just don't. I don't know, man. I just don't see it. It's one of those things where obviously the people that own the stadiums and that essentially are paying the bills there are not wanting it. So it's frustrating.
Yeah. We'll keep it. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it kind of plays out throughout the year, and then maybe something will come up of it. But moving on, we've got our last little bit here, and then you guys are going back and forth about Gator stuff, so we'll probably have to talk about that a little bit. We'll give it a little juice. But I mean, this clip has been going viral of our boy Baker and Kyle not hitting a damn dart, dude. Oof. Like, what's up, bro? What's up, dude?
Why do you even let that come out?
And this looks like it's Action News. It looks like they didn't have a choice.
Well, no wonder practices are closed.
It's brutal, dude.
News.
This is brutal. I mean, look, it's small stuff. No, I mean, there's Cody right there. That's a big boy right there running routes. Look, Baker Mayfield, this is his last straw. Kyle Trask, obviously, still new to the game. But you expect to see a little bit more out of it. But yeah, people were fired up about this. Baker's always had a short leash, I feel like, in the NFL, and anytime it's about Baker, it's him getting roasted. I feel bad for the guy, but
yeah, poor guy. Guys, it's OTAs, and it's one of those things where we all know we're all human, and we all know it's not perfect all the time, right? But this looks like high schoolers. I mean, These guys are pros, and they are missing big time. And then who's catching the routes?
What I like to compare this to is because obviously when the practice film was coming out from the Florida Gators this past spring, right? We're hitting shots. Mertz looks good. Miller looks good. The immediate comeback to that is, well, it's practice. Nobody's guarding them, right? Because how good they look. There was a few behind the back passes from other teams that we were kind of poking fun at. But if film like this, if footage like this came out of Mertz and Miller, oh son,
it looks like the Miami.
Exactly. It would be bad. It would be brutal for Florida fans to have to deal with that. But yeah, like you said, this is a professional team and just missing just little dump passes. Like it's not. I mean, look, it's a small window. It's a small, minute window. This camera could have went off and they could have hit 45 passes in a row. You know what I mean? But this is typically how it works. We just get this little clip and it just not looking good. I don't even care if it's the third string wide receivers. You got to hit them.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things. It's crazy. We kind of talked about this precast. How fast a team can go from Super Bowl success to just an absolute dumpster fire, right? The question was how is Tampa Bay how are they keeping all this talent? How are they signing all these receivers? Kind of this Kansas City effect. Well, we see what happens when all the chickens came to roost, and they're decimated because of cap space and stuff like that. You can only kick the can down the road, and unfortunately, this is what you get. Yeah, you won a Super Bowl over there in Tampa Bay, but this is what you're gonna have for a long time, unfortunately.
Adrian makes a good point. He goes, just like AR, it's OTAs. You can't make mountains out of molehills, and you're 100% right. Right? I think we just had a subject where it was the complete other direction. That's a solid point of like, look, you can't. Like I said, it's one clip. It's not one, but it's a couple throws, overreacting. But look, the thing is we know Baker Mayfield hasn't had much great success in the NFL. It's been a slide, a fast slide, going the wrong direction. Kyle Trask, the one showing he had or couple showings he had last year weren't the greatest either. So you kind of have that on your mind, and then this is the first footage you see. That's kind of where those mountains start to form, because you're just putting together, what you have. And it's all we have right now. But you're 100% right. It's only OTAs. But it's what we got. So we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, if we see this in preseason, it's not going to be good. It's going to be real bad. And every even the greats make an errant throw every now and then. Rodgers had a really bad year a couple of years ago where, he just, I think it was
It's not even missing the passes. If you look closely, they're just throwing kind of ducks too,
Yeah, they're wobbly. They're just, I don't know. It just looks not great, guys. It's not a good look. And, I would be probably not happy with whatever media team that was that took that. I'd probably having a little talking to with them, because the teams can revoke a media pass. Obviously, Shelton knows about how that works with the whole media deal. It's a tough time getting in there, right?
Tough to get your hand on, for sure. Yeah. Muddy says, I still remember when ESPN showed and wrote reports that KC screwed up, letting Alex Smith go for Mahomes. Mahomes was apparently a turnover machine at practice before his starting year. Fail. And that's it too, right? It's just practice. It's not much. And again, who know? We don't know, because again, media gets to come in for a short amount of time. They don't get to see the entire practice, just like Florida. Anytime we would preface their practices, they were allowed in for 15 minutes. And so even in the article say, hey, we were in for 15 minutes. During that 15 minutes, nobody dropped a pass. That doesn't mean that nobody dropped every pass before that or after that, right? We'll see. Half the time ESPN just says whatever to get people's attention. That's part of it too, right? These things, people do hate Baker Mayfield. He says they like hating on him. So anytime there's an opportunity to kind of roast Baker, it's not even the Kyle Trask. It's just Baker.
Why is that?
He's cocky. He's got a little bit of an arrogance about him. You're sticking Oklahoma flags into the Ohio State and you're.
I kind of love that.
I love it too. I love his swagger. The guy is a walk on. So I appreciate it. But boys, we have the Miami Heat coming on here in about 15 minutes. The number one priority right now. The Gators baseball is playing right now. I think it's still tied from what you guys are telling me in the chats. As for Jubilee weekend, I see you guys ranting and raving about that in the chat as well. Look, man, it sucks. It sucks because of what we thought would happen, right? But Dave, look, to be fair, so I can't even be fair, because my thing was there were so many people saying, not just us. It wasn't like we were creating this stuff, right? There was other people stating that they felt that there would be a
insiders.
Commit. Yeah, right. That we would be a commit. Here's the silver lining that I'm trying to look at here. Is last year I felt like we always knew what was happening like 2 or 3 days in advance. There wasn't any excitement and there wasn't really any flavor. I remember when Marcus and Trayon, when they dropped, it felt kind of out of the blue. And that was really an exciting time for Florida. After that, everything kind of felt like it was you always knew kind of before it even happened. Maybe there's something going on where Billy has shut things down, right? And kind of kept things in order and says, look, we're going to control this. We're going to let things go at our pace. I don't know. I'm stretching here. Too Legit says we suck. He's upset. Look, we can't say we suck yet because nobody's committed elsewhere. So if they commit elsewhere, then I'll be like, yeah, this weekend was a complete bust, and I'll totally agree with you. Because let's say they commit this weekend, they go somewhere else, and they don't sign. They commit there. They commit there anyways. It doesn't really matter, right? They flip. Lagoy couldn't close. I think you're. Look, we can't say that yet. You just can't. I understand your frustration, and I think, one positive is Jeremiah Smith changed his profile picture of him in the swamp. Progress. There's also, I know, who was it? Jordan Ross. Apparently, like he left with a, pretty high on Florida. So there's pros to pull out of it. The negative is that we were expecting 2 to 3 commits, and we didn't get a single one. Chris Jones got another crystal ball from Corey Bender from On3. So a lot of things still happening. There's players visiting. I think either later today or tomorrow. I saw someone tweet out. Super Chat says from West State says, I think quite a few will commit this week. McCray and Jones seem to absolutely love their visits. Yeah, McCray was tweeting the whole time. So unless he was just trolling, I don't know. But I think I think we still have time. I wanted to go into, like I said, Friday Night Lights with a few commits. Maybe that's what they're setting up for. I don't know. At this point, I feel like we're lost, and I don't mind it. If things turn out and be okay, I would be completely okay with being, left in the mud and not knowing what's going on. If it goes the right direction. If we're left in the mud and it's because Billy's left in the mud too, then I'm like, it's gonna hurt. I don't feel like that yet.
I think it's just kind of frustrating just for the fans. But I'll tell you this. I'll tell you what didn't happen is another Dijon ordeal.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to. I mean, I think that was we kind of saw it with Jamari Howard a little bit, and that was when I felt we could do well on. Harrison says 5 stars know their worth and are usually going to take time and go over every opportunity. And look, having a limited official visits is going to change everything. I think the kids know that. The coaches know that. It's not going to be, I think, like it used to be. Too Legit says Dave & Buster's for official visits. What the F? Look, man, I think I saw some people kind of taking jabs at it. These are kids, man. Like they're 16, 17-year-old kids. Like it's a small part of an entire weekend of like, I still like going to Dave & Buster's. You know what I mean? Like, hey, it's been a long day. We've been talking. We've been doing this. You've been grinding. You've been doing this. Let's go blow some steam off. Let's go play some arcade games and have fun. Like, we went to a club. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to think about it. They're kids. Like, it's a small. Georgia does a scavenger hunt, and apparently it's a big hoot. The scavenger hunt is around campus, and then the winner is they basically are finding Kirby, and they get to hang out with Kirby. So if you think that hanging out at Dave & Buster's for 2 hours is ridiculous, like it's a scavenger hunt. Yeah, like it's just
that's where the big clip came out with Katie and Shamar. They were shooting hoops against each other on the basketball game, and you could tell you could tell that like he loved that, like everybody loved that.
Yeah, and I think it's a time for guys to get together and to really it breaks down the wall. You put them in a neutral environment, right? Mm-hmm. We're not on campus, and then we hang out and just play games, and you really get to kind of get to know one another.
Yeah, I don't mind Dave & Buster's or Top Golf. You know what I mean?
Top Golf's another one, yeah, but not everyone likes golf. So I think you find like a middle ground of, hey, let's go hang out and let's have a good time. So
yeah.
We'll see.
It's frustrating. I wish we could somebody. We couldn't
get
an offensive line.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. But so I've learned a lot over this past year with having a kid, and things move very quickly. And I remember the very first week he was born, the wife was, having issues kind of producing milk, and she was stressing about it and whatever it may be. I'm kind of sat down. I was like, look, in a week, 2 weeks from now, if you're getting the milk out, we're not even going to remember this week 1. Nobody's going to remember it, and we're going to be moving right along. But we're in the moment. We were just so hyper-focused on it. And then 2 weeks later, sure enough, we had a cooler full of frozen milk because she couldn't stop producing it. So this is 1 week. If in 2 weeks you told me that I'm going to have a cooler full of milk, then everything's going to be okay. Now, in 2 weeks, if we're in the same situation, then yeah, I'll agree with you. I'm like, all right, it's a little scary. It's something's up. We've got to figure this thing out. We got to get it adjusted. But we're not there yet. So it's a little bit of an overreaction. It's a frustration because of what we expected. Same thing, though, when you have a kid, you expect there's going to be a lot of milk coming out automatically. And this is a weird analogy, but here we are.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. So it's a situation where you're unsure of what's happening. You expect something to happen, and it doesn't happen. That doesn't mean that it's bad news or that you're not going to get what you want. It just may not come at the time that you wanted it, which sometimes is better. Maybe it's going to be even sweeter when it finally does hit. So let's chill. Everyone's had big visits. Sammy Brown was at Clemson this weekend. All they got was a crystal ball. We got a few more, in my opinion, crystal balls this weekend. That's huge. Jordan Ross came out of nowhere. LJ McCray came out of nowhere. Chris Jones, that's kind of been leading up. Evans was hoping maybe that be one. And then Jeremiah Smith switches his profile picture. Small stuff, but big stuff nonetheless if you kind of start adding it all up. But I know we're going to get roasted for it on Wednesday. I'll be ready for it. Look, we deserve it, right? We talked it up. Hashtag Jubilee Weekend was on all hands on deck. And I think, again, if in 3 weeks, 5 of these 7 guys that we were going after commit, We're like, hell yeah, Jubilee effing weekend, baby. Right? It just might take a minute. Yeah, Alabama did get a commit. You know what I mean? They might get one, but they got one or two, I think. I did see some schools getting some commits, but it wasn't like they had a big weekend going on. It was just, I think, a typical commit for those guys.
Yeah, and we're just laying the groundwork for our guys, and I think it's not the end of the tour because they can take as many official visits as they want, so they can.
That's a big thing. I think that's changed over the past years. Is that why wouldn't you? And you could still commit with those official visits, but I think look, if you're a kid, it's like, hey, I'm not gonna show my hand this early. I want to get the full blown treatment because I'm sure it's like if you say, hey, I'm here. Unless like a Jeremiah Smith where he's like, yeah, I'm keeping it open. I think some recruits can get away with, yeah, I'm committed, but it's like they're so talented, the school's still going to go all out. But if you're a lower end 4-star and you say, hey, I'm not committed, you may not get the same treatment. I don't know. I really don't. But I think that could be something maybe like, hey, with official unlimited official visits, and if Bama wants to give me one, I get to go see what Saban's got going on, and Kirby wants to give me one, and FSU wants to give me one, like, what's up? They may pull that because the schools only have so many to give. So if they commit, that kid might pull his, the school might pull their official visit. There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's an interesting deal there that they can have as many as they want because, and we'll see with your brother, right? Like, it's one of those things where he can now go on as many official visits as he wants. So. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, the Heat game's already on. Oh, I got to go, Bubba. I thought it was on 8:30. You were right. It was at 8 o'clock. Yeah, I'm going for the Panthers and Stanley Cup too. But yeah, I'm excited to see what little bro can do for recruiting. It's going to be exciting to see. But boys and girls, thank you for stopping by, hanging out with us. You guys have a good night. Till next time, I'm Sheldon.
I'm the professor.
Yes, sir. See you guys Wednesday live 8:35. See ya.
Don't want to